You are listening to the Property Marketing Show with your hosts, Tom and Neil. The show that's all about marketing your property properly.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Property Marketing Show. I'm Neil and I'm here with my co-host Tom.
Hey guys.
And today we are delighted to have Paul Clarke from Mr and Mrs Clarke joining us.
Hi.
50%
Paul.
of Clarke.
Yes.
Yeah, the lesser half, the
lesser half.
Lesser
Good way to
interesting.
start. Good way to start.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Brownie points already achieved there. Paul, for those of our viewers and listeners who don't know you and don't know the Mr and Mrs Clarke brand, do you want to just give us a bit of a quick potted history to tell us a little bit about yourself, I hate using the J word, but your estate agency journey and what's led you to this point?
Right, yeah, fantastic. So I think not many people, I don't think, will have heard of us. We've very quietly got about our business over the last 5 years since we started Mr and Mrs Clarke. And just gently started making waves in the way we sort of advertise homes and the way we work with people and our take on estate agency and you know, it's just amazing to have been invited on here. This shows that we're getting there. Well, the what we do is getting a little bit more notice. So yeah, what our journey, right? So the estate agency journey, Alex and I. So Mrs Clarke and I were in the process of selling a house in London, buying a house in Sussex. We were selling our home through a very well-known international big corporate suit-wearing agency, and buying a house with a very similar agency, just in a slightly different thickness of pinstripe. And we were amazed by the estate agency experience. We were just, I think, loads of superlatives. You know, we were flabbergasted about the service we got. We were disappointed about the marketing, really disappointed both of the way our home that we'd spent a lot of money, you know, poured over the thickness of parquet, the type of light fitting, and then it just wasn't mentioned when it came to selling our home. And we were, you know, that was a strange process. And we came from a background before that. We ran an events business, so detail was super important, and sort of that brand and marketing and experience is just in us. So we were really disappointed with that, and then we were really disappointed. Actually, it was just. What's that program recently? It's Stats Sells Flats.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it was kind of, you know,
yeah.
Miles sells little country cottage in Sussex. It was just like, we were so disappointed. It was a joke, and you kind of got this guy standing in front of, you know, he turned up late. He stood in front of a crack in the wall. He failed to tell us it was grade 2 listed. And we're like, wow, this is really bad. This whole experience is really bad. And I kept saying that, Alex, this is really bad. This is really bad. He just went, shut up. Let's do it ourselves. I was like, okay, go on then. What are we going to call it, Alex? Sort of, you know, prodding as you do with husband. Oh, go on then. He said, oh, well, we'll call it Mr and Mrs Clarke. I was like, well, fine, okay. And what will it look like? And she said, well, it'll look like this. And then suddenly we're on a run. I don't, you know, we were out running, so I could barely talk. She's fitter than me, so I could barely. So she was just telling us how Mr and Mrs Clarke was going to work, that we were going to sell houses, sell homes with a real sort of attention to detail, and then it kind of, we just went, okay, fine. Set about it. Worked with an amazing branding agency who were based in Brighton, Luke and Jan. So we met them at the pub. So right, come on. They were new at the time. Their business is now called United Us. Fantastic branding agency. So the four of us sat down. They were really new. We were this startup, and we created the Mr and Mrs Clarke brand. And then 5-6 years later, it's kind of here. So that's the journey.
Excellent. I'm trying to think that, I mean, Stats Sells Flats. is pretty bad. There was one, we're all of a similar sort of age. Bob Mortimer did an estate
amazing.
agent skit,
Yeah.
which is fantastic, and the name has just gone completely. But really floppy ginger hair, which appealed to me at the time.
And I think that was it. I think when we started that journey, the very start of the estate agency journey, and we kind of had some focus groups and we talked to people about it, everyone had that caricature of an estate agent, and it's not fair. It's not fair. There are some amazing estate agents out here, and both in the UK, and you look at all the programs popping up in France and Australia and America. But I think as estate agents and estate agencies, we're on the back foot because there are some really rubbish estate agents out there who give us all a really bad name. And the marketing in particular, the service I'm talking about, but the marketing in particular is so bad, you don't expect it to be very good. So we've kind of all become, we know it's going to be terrible photography. We know it's going to be out of focus. We know it's going to be wide-angled lenses, and the sofa looks like it's 200 foot wide, and we know that it's all cookie cutter property descriptions, and that made it really exciting for us, because we thought, and we still do, which is interesting, and I'd love to talk about, is we wanted to positively disrupt the industry right at the start, and there's still so much disruption positively with the aim of the customer, the buyer and the seller. So the customer to us is the person who's coming to see a home, and the client is the person selling or letting the home. So I use the words customer and client. The customer, we should be portraying this beautiful home. So we don't say property. We always say home, because again, just that subtle difference. We always said, well, actually, they're homes. We're not like, say, Fine and Country, who only deal up with the upper quartile or whatever they call it. We'll deal with any price of home, but it's more the attitude of the client. If they love their home and they've poured effort into their home, and it's so our strapline is, we're discerningly different. If there's something discerning or different about a home or a client, we love to work with them. Be that 100 grand studio flat in the middle of Cardiff. Cardiff is lovely. Or we're off to a £2 million country pad in the New Forest on Friday. But they've all got this sort of subtle, they're homes, and we love advertising and selling homes.
Mm. And where's Mr. and Mrs. Clarke today then? So it started out with Mr. and Mrs. Clarke. Have you got many other Clarkettes? And
yeah, we've got two mini Clarks, so we've got two kids, and they're on the YTS scheme. They're so yeah, our Clarkettes, I like that. That's good. It sounds like a band. Yeah, thank you. So that from there, we sort of employed some estate agents to help us grow the business. We came up to Warwickshire, which is where Alex is from, and it was sewn up. Warwickshire is sewn up by one particular dinosaur at the time and a lot of corporate. So we thought, well, let's try and crack that market. Let's have a go at that market. So we employed two amazing estate agents at the time. Then we got a phone call about a year later from someone quite high up in Modern House. Serious brand, crush on Modern House.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Amazing, love what they do. Different to us, but really love it. And he was like, look, I'm sick of being employed. I want to run my own estate agency. I haven't got super deep pockets. I love your brand. I love your idea. Shall we meet for a beer? Met him for a beer. We shared the same values of service, of advertising, of one person being the person who values a house to handing the keys over. This realtor type situation, one great person, and we just hit it off straight away. And he said, look, I'm probably going to do this for 3 years, and then if it all goes well, I will set up my own estate agent. We're like, well, yeah, cool, let's try.
Yeah.
And which was really refreshing. All the other estate agents I talked to spoke in riddles and were seriously untransparent. I'm sure there's a word for untransparent, but not transparent. Yeah, just
you're the copywriter.
Yeah. And so Christian was in Hackney, and he was the first Mr. and Mrs. Clarke agent, broker, self-employed. We set the lawyers about creating a a license agreement. We set to work, and Alex's background before events was in IT, so she's very operational. We started putting the operations together of creating a brokerage. Christian was a huge success. He was brilliant to work with, and from there we've now got 15 agents dotted around the country who run their own Mr and Mrs Clarke agency with the support of this back office. And that's where we are today. So yeah, we are back.
Fantastic.
It's based in Warwick, so we're still in Warwick. We're a little bit older, we're a little bit grayer. We're still particularly enthusiastic and passionate about what we're doing. And yeah, it's cool.
So just picking up on the brand side of things, obviously great, visually striking, really noticeable. So to be effective, as far as I'm concerned, the brand has got to be absolutely deep in everything that you do. So given the constraints that you might face with, fewer constraints with your own website, but constraints that you face with all the portals that we know and love, how have you been able to translate that very distinctive, striking, disruptive brand through to, fitting 250 characters in a box for Rightmove?
Yeah. So Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, Boom, and all of them. I think they get really bashed around. I think they are essential for us as an industry. It's where the customer is looking. When in the early days we had a real come on, let's get everyone off Rightmove and straight onto Mr and Mrs Clarke.com, and we've seen a much larger amount of traffic coming directly to us, but Rightmove and Zoopla are huge. So the imagery, you can shove on a few iPhone snaps onto a Rightmove advert. They're going to look very, very different to the image we choose to be our hero image on Rightmove. It's not just going to be the front of a house. So the standard bit in most agents, it is an exterior front of the property. For some of our homes, yes, that's the right shot, but others it might be the kitchen, or it might be a close-up of a dog curled up by the fire. So we try, and everything is, well, you go into a lot of CRMs, it literally says first shot exterior, second shot garden, and that's really boring. And the amount of people
I've noticed you use a lot of people in your photos, which is really distinctive. Use them in a very different way to how I've used them for, congratulate you, actually. It's really good. How does that work for you? Why?
On the whole, really well. There are still people, there are customers and consumers that don't like it. Well, our clients love it. They love that idea. They've spotted it as well. There's some customers that'll say, listen, I don't want to see the picture of the cat. I want to see the floor plan. That's cool. We do all of that. But I don't know. Well,
who are they, by the way? Are they actors? Or
friends or agents. People have to kind of stop me doing it. They all got to sit with me pretending.
That would be cool. You're in every single house.
Well, it's like the Stan Lee effect, or Hitchcock appear in every single one.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our clients will just, you're taking a photo and they'll want to be in the shot. That is, but I don't know. I think there's two parts to that. The first is you can see that you can get a sense of the space. So you can see how high the ceilings are. You can see the depth a bit more. It adds that third dimension. Mm-hmm. So I suppose that's why architects will use the blurred image. So that was one. And then the second part is it's about a lifestyle. It's we advertised a home in Warwick a couple of weeks ago with our agent Ed, and there's a guy in cool trainers, bright socks, cool shorts, and a short-sleeved shirt that with a cool pattern. And he was the owner. He was the owner of the house. And we said, listen, you sum up this house. Yeah. And most estate agents won't think like that. That's who your buyer is. So I'm sat there on Rightmove, I'm scrolling along, and I think, that's me. I want to buy that home because that's me. So you can't do that if you just treat every home the same, every property is the same. So from adding people in, adding animals in. So if there's a great dog in the house. We're gonna use him or her. We're gonna use cats. I'll bring my dog. So a picture of a Cotswold cottage is a Cotswold's cottage, but if you've got a Labrador sort of skipping along in the back lawn, you suddenly like, that's the life I want. I need hunter wellies, and I need a black Labrador and Barber jacket. So and you guys have done this in marketing more than in other brands. It's those associations to garner that experience, garner those emotions.
Yeah.
And that's why we call them home. They're not just bricks and mortar properties. Our product is a home, a lifestyle. Bigger. It's big. It's and I think, well, the dogs is the one I think we've become. Right at the start, our famous, it wasn't famous at all. Like in my little world, it was famous. Every house had Wellington boots at the front door. We seemed to be specialising at the time in kind of country houses, big, small, in Warwickshire. So there'd always be Wellington boots outside the front door. And if we thought it was a family home, we'd have 3 pairs of little mini wellies and 2 daddy's welly and mummy's welly. And if it was a 2 up, 2 down little cottage, we might only have 2 pairs of wellies, a pair of bright pink ones and a pair of other. And it was that, if you're scrolling through and then you, oh yeah, that's me. My kids would love those. It was just a bit of fun at the time, and we were always trying to think of different ways to get emotional about it.
You've got to. I think the interesting for me is the fact that you're now going national, but you've managed to, from looking through all the photos on your site, you've managed to keep a very distinctive look that's common across everything. And I think that's quite impressive because you're using different photographers, presumably, and they're all going to have slightly different style and settings.
Yeah.
So you must have a very clear brief to those guys.
Super clear. So that was always right from the start. Our kind of our brand guidelines, our photography guidelines. Yeah. They're super strict, but they have the opportunity for a photographer and an agent, a stylist, to bring in a kind of a colloquialism about it. And there's some images on the website that have a slightly darker tone to it because the photographer has artistic license, and we use photographers from out of the property industry. So and they'll come and they really love this idea of actually being able to shoot a whole house, a whole home, and so they get really into it. And then what you give, if you recruit the right sort of photographer into the team, they're going to be passionate about it, and they're going to give their own take on it. And it was our real fear when we grew the business into different parts of the country that, one, you could become really sloppy about it and not be bothered and just quick, let's just get the bucks in and not just forget that marketing at the front and those images and that copywriting, and that they're further away from us. I can't be at every photo shoot. I'm not at every photo shoot, but we recruit the right agents, so the right agents join us who believe in it, who believe in how we do it. Therefore, the right photographers, videographers come, and it creates this lovely environment. Yeah, so we're super strict on the brand and how it's used. But yeah,
presumably your agents as well. They must be creatives at heart. You know, they've got to be slightly. Dare I say, different to the average agent on the high street.
I like it. They're discerningly different.
Discerningly different.
So, it's probably 50-50. Half of our team of agents come from a sort of a corporate estate agency background. Brilliant estate agents, but want help on the marketing side of things.
Yeah, sure.
And then
perhaps they felt like black sheep in those, they wanted to do more, but they were restricted, right? So they
and didn't have the skills to bring that in themselves. So they could have set up their own estate agency shop at the front, and and we have these conversations all the time with agents that it will just turn into another agent. It'll be another estate agency run by an agent, and it'll look as homogenous as the next one. The shop will open up to another agent, and the cycle goes on. And the guys that have come from an estate agency background and joined Mr Clarke have kind of said, I'm a great estate agent. You're really good at the marketing side of things, and we love the brand. Then it's magic. And then what we have is the other half of our agents who join want to get into estate agency, but don't want to work as an estate agent. They want to be an estate agent, but don't want to be an estate agent. So we work with them on training them as estate agents, and they go through their qualifications, and they tuck into the marketing side of stuff to do it. And then, and that's growing. That kind of, they've watched Selling Sunset. They want to do it in a British way. They believe in staging. They read Living Etc. Decoration. They are on Pinterest and Instagram constantly, and they have that pain point. So, so yeah, they're either creatives or they know they're not creatives and want creatives.
Yeah. I mean, something else I picked up. You're talking about detail, and I can see it. I can see it in your property marketing. Floor plans. Take me through your floor plans, because they're often, I mean, even we're a property marketing agency, and they're often kind of the forgotten child, but actually they play such a huge role.
Huge. So
and the plans on your site, discerningly different.
that will make our team really happy. So we spend a ridiculous amount of time talking about floor plans. It would be really easy for us, and it would not cost us very much money to just shove on black and white, super easy, all look slightly different. But what happens is our agent gives us a floor plan, be it existing floor plan, they've drawn it themselves, whatever it is, and we give it to a graphic designer who puts it on a pink background and creates it. And that comes into that kind of, again, that emotional relationship we want to have with the consumer. So you're on Rightmove, you're scrolling through, I can see nice photos. The floor plan is then clear. It has the compass. It has the, we're not all floristry and fairy lights. We're not just pretty for pretty's sake, and I'm certainly not, but it's not all pretty and has no substance. The substance behind the style is super important. So square footage, compass, outbuildings, plot size, because yes, you could emotional and you really interested in all of the barrow and ball paint that's on the kitchen cupboards, but then if it's not, the room sizes don't work. Well, you need that as well. So it's that it's real. We started. It was quite interesting. We started noticing in Warwickshire when we set up. We created this, so the image was beautiful, the copy was compelling, and there was real clarity in our specification and our floor plan. And then suddenly a couple of the competitors would start trying to take funky photos and writing in capital letters and floor plans suddenly would, and it was like, no, don't do it. Like, it just wasn't work. So the floor plans and specifications are super, super important. You need that. That's definitely.
I think it all plays into your brand, because you're telling a story about every property that you list. And for me, I think that new homes and developers, especially the good ones like Berkeley Homes, tend to do a really good job of that. So when you look at their floor plans and their smaller assets, their site plans, so they tend to be really super on brand, really clear, very distinctive to their brand. But actually, funnily enough, it tends to be lost in the agent industry. And I think that's a nice little niche that you've got there, because I see tons of it. I see thousands.
Yeah.
And so you're doing something right. Very new homesy, really clever.
The new homes bit is really interesting. I totally agree. You see from both kind of the bespoke small developers, and they create a product. They create, they talk about, they don't just say, they don't. I'm trying to
900 square foot small garden.
Totally, and they also focus on the lifestyle. So, Warwick, right? We'll pick Warwick. Warwick is a town close to Birmingham and 1 hour 30 minutes from London. There are 6 schools, and it's like that's what majority of location guides get said on estate agents' websites. Whereas a lot of developers will start getting into the interesting parts of and they have emotive language, and they're selling a lifestyle. But you're right, that we see it a lot, and then it then gets put on the corporate estate agent's website because they've chosen the big corporate, and suddenly it's lost. Suddenly that whole soul is like drained. And we've worked with some nice small developers, and that's why they've come to us. And yeah, there is that most agents kind of suck the life out of a home sometimes.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm constantly I'm not arguing with people, but explaining to people that it doesn't really matter how many radiators the property has in the grand scheme of things, and the place for that level of detail, you could feature it on the floor plan, you could feature it in a list of bullet points if you really wanted, but it isn't gonna make the big difference.
No, it's not, and so there's that. So I suppose our jobs as estate agents is to get the client what they want, whatever it is, the most money, sell it in the fastest time. That's our job. How we do that is through our marketing. But then, the radiators bit, that's not going to get, unless you're selling to someone who's obsessed by heat. And I can't think of an example even where we try and spin. I don't know, but
it's even more of a negative with the cost of living crisis. You want the house with the fewest amount of radiators.
I love that. It's a cold, yeah. We'll give you a free warm jumper to buy. But they then go into the home. For us, I don't think the marketing then stops. I think one, they're going to see all the radiators around the house at that point, but you then got to still be marketing the home. You still so the reason I've kind of gone onto that is I was at a home this morning, and it was and it had those big cast iron, beautiful big radiators. Just sort of resonated with me, and it was in a way the perfect Mr and Mrs Clarke viewing. I'd kind of found out who this couple were that were coming. And you can they're on Facebook or whatever. So I kind of worked out what kind of music they were into. So we had a nice playlist playing of some nice music I thought would set the tone right. We had some nice scented candles on from the vibe I was getting of how they lived. They'd be that scented candle type of person, and they came in. I knew they had 2 small kids, so I told the client not to totally tidy away all the toys. I thought, you want to come in, you want to see those toys, and it was you set the scene. The marketing continues past just the digital footprint, and this is where Alex and I are in from an events background.
Yeah.
It's that experience. You go, which is fun, and that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. And we're not as busy as a Connell's agent who has 600 properties on per agent and is not able to do that. But then what we're trying to do is get our client the best deal, and we want to sell to our customer. Our customer, you've got it, you're going to get it. And that's why some clients will come to us, because they kind of appreciate that effort, knowledge, bespoke touches.
But it's the opposite of throwing mud against a wall and seeing what sticks. It's using all the pre-marketing to give you a potentially smaller pool to actually show around the house and do the extra effort, go to the extra effort that you've described there, rather than the opposite of that would be what I have a real dislike of, which is the open house, open the door, free for all bun fight.
Yeah, and again, I've been at them. There's someone standing at the front with a clipboard who knows nothing about the house. You walk in, and where you can't sell to them. There's no experience about it. I kind of get the idea. So the old idea is what you get as many people in as possible, and they're all going to fight each other and get the price higher, and it's all a bit transactional and scary and unpleasant for me. I think that it's going boutique at whatever price house, sort of house and home, and is a better way of selling for us, and it's not for everyone. And there's another huge brand crush I have is Fantastic Frank. So they've got offices. I think it's a franchise business as well, but it's got an office in Ibiza, it's got an office in Berlin, and one of their big things is they want to find one buyer. They don't want to find 100 people to come and see a house. They want to see one buyer. So that's what marketeers are doing around the world. You're trying to find your customer. You're not just trying to just shove everybody in, and because they're not all going to buy it. You want to find that right person who's going to buy the house, and you do that by being bespoke.
Here's an interesting one, because I encourage my well, I do it for the clients who I write for, but when I'm training an agent to write copy, I do pretty much start out with have your ideal buyer in mind and get them to do an avatar exercise or buy a persona. It's called the same sort of thing. Do you do that? So do explicitly on paper, or is it a mental process?
Absolutely, it's one of the first things we do. So, and we do it with our agents and train them how to do it. When you go into a home, you've got to look past your client, but who is going to buy this house? Who is this going to be? And then you play that game of marketing to that person. You've got to be a little bit wider, because I think with a lot of homes, it's there's going to be some curveballs in. You're not always going to get that exact persona right, but you can kind of see who's going to be buying the house. It's not that difficult. If it's a 4-bedroom detached house, you kind of have an idea that it might be a family buying it. So you've got to, in the location guides, you've got to be talking about schools, easy peasy, but also where do you get the best flat white? What's the name of the headmaster at the school locally? Is he super strict? Is he not super strict? Where's the nearest playground? And if you can get, we can see the dwell time on our web pages. We know how long, it's big. You can see what people do on web pages, and you can see when people stop. And we then know when we're getting those kind of fun bits right in our copy, that we then kind of ham it up on the others. So we kind of analyze it from that. But finding the persona is exactly that. There was we sold a house in Leamington Spa quite early on, and the guy ran a marketing agency, and I was really chatting to him, and he was the guy that said, "Listen, who's seeing the house? Who's seeing the house next?" So they're an older couple, they're downsizing, they've got a house in London. They're like, "Go on, tell me more." I was like, "Well, he's called this. I think he, so he created the playlist, absolutely perfect." And the guy walked in, you could just see he left a bottle of whiskey on the side, and there was just these little bits that was product placement in big films. People make a lot of money doing it, so you just subtly try and, or if it's a mum of a young family, you leave a bottle of gin on the side. There's that. And I think, and that's both hopefully smart marketing. It's also fun. I think the fun in estate agency marketing and property advertising might be Rightmove and Zoopla and Boomins and On the Market's fault, or it might be just because that's how estate agency has been done in this country. But it just isn't very good fun. Like, it's no fun. Like, people.
Well, it's a lowest common denominator. Give it to the junior, get it done, get it up there, sort of a job. But the approach that you're taking, absolutely, you can have fun with it.
You can, and I think what we try really hard. So I was thinking about the photos and that kind of thing, and making it fun. And when someone comes to look at a house, they usually are in a bad mood before they even get there. Because one, the marketing's been terrible, and they're annoyed because it's terrible, and they're just in a bad mood, and they know they're going to be, they think they're going to be lied to, they think they're going to be patronised, they think they're going to be conned, they think they're going to be told it's going to best and finals. So they come in this grumpy mood, and it's that experience part, but also the marketing of kind of, if you make it fun and irreverent and interesting and stylish, that our customers usually, you can't win it all, usually come in a better mood because they're better informed about the home they're buying. They've kind of read through, because we'll always, even if someone comes through Rightmove, we'll really send them the details on our website so they can come and immerse themselves in this kind of mystery style world. And they usually come in a really good mood. Now, there was one guy, on our webpage it says like, Mr Clarke thinks, Mrs Clarke loves. He's like, I want to buy this house because Mr Clarke, and he didn't know I was his character, Mr Clarke. He was like, Mr Clarke said that 7 o'clock is the perfect time to drink a Negroni in the garden. Show me that place I can have a Negroni. And you're like, I think it's out there. And so he was in a good mood when he got there. And then the big hate of and talking to sort of customers is they go to houses and they've used that wide angle lens. They go into a room and they're like, oh, yeah, thought it was going to be bigger. And you're like,
it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, isn't it? The photos either make the room look much bigger than it is or much smaller than it is. Tom, how do you get that sweet spot?
Yeah, Tom, tell us the magic, because I never want someone to come and be like, oh, I wish I thought that was big. That disappointment is just, the pain is palpable that they've walked in and they've and they walk straight up. You've lost them.
Yeah.
Do you find your vendors, they must be choosing you presumably on what they see, how you're listing other properties? Does that come across much?
Yeah, so that's because we are an estate agency. We sell houses, that's what we do. And so does the other estate agents down the road. Our big point of difference is the style in which we sell them. So our clients will come to us saying, we've seen you on social media, or we've seen you in the press. We saw a house that you were selling 4 years ago. We thought that was really fun. We love that. So we usually get that person. So I've transformed this house top to bottom. We've spent blood, sweat, tears on creating this home, and we've always said when we came to sell it, we wanted to sell it in a different way. So, and I think that's why we've been very quiet for the past 5 years, because it's taken time to build that.
With your formula, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
do you think they're discerningly different vendors too? Do you think they consciously, know what you're doing, or do they care?
Yeah, they definitely care. And we know when we go to a house and that they aren't quite right for us. We know, we just instantly know they don't care. And that's cool. Like they want something, but they don't understand why they've got us around. Oh, your photos are cool. And
the conversation will start with fee, probably.
Totally. And, and a lot of houses are not for us, and it's not price. We're not for a lot of people. We are, and I listened back to your other podcast, and I agreed with the guys in the Lake District about niche is good. You be that price point, be that style, be that place, whatever it is. I think niche is really good. So our clients totally get it. And then it's a nice relationship, and I think that's really cool as well. You do build this trusting. I think we're seen as a marketing agency as much as an estate agency, and you guys in marketing are all cool, so they kind of think we're cool. So we're gonna have a nice relationship with them, and sometimes they don't have a nice relationship with an estate agent, because then they've got this preconceived idea of what an estate agency is. So they definitely get it.
Yeah, nice. And
sorry, John, go on.
My turn. So that reading through your site, you guys focus a lot on the copy you write, the images, the photos, the floor plans. When it comes to video and tours, 360 tours, do they come under your umbrella, or do you just focus heavily on doing a great job of copy and photos?
So video, so the style of videos we do are that kind of mini movie style, that kind of, and they're all slightly different as things are. We did a series of like Mr Clarke home tours of walking around a home, but not in TikTok fast style, and then some sort of pieces to camera, focusing on the little corners of the house. And with that has been our biggest growth sort of area over the last year. We've really pushed for as many of our homes we sell to get videos. Now there are cost implementations on that. Who pays for that? It's tough, but we're investing as a business into video far more. I think our take on video is kind of the less is more bit. We want to kind of subtly do a video that is emotive, a bit like our photos. That it shows. Go back to the Labrador, because he's my dog. So Marlowe, my dog, running through kind of the garden and into the front door, then opens up into the kitchen, done. And that kind of that almost like a trailer to the house. We've never done the whole 360 tour, Matterport, Giraffe 360. We've never done it, and that's not to say we won't. I don't know why. It's kind of that mini movie bit that's really done it, and we've worked a couple of really cool videographers to do it, and everyone in both the back office and our agents get really sick of me. I think we should be braver and braver with the way we advertise properties, homes, and video is the way you can be brave.
For me, I think it's with your brand. I think when it comes from a marketing perspective, you can take a science or an art, and I think you guys go down the art route. And my personal perspective on a 360 tour, we have the same thing when we're creating CGIs. People ask, can they have tours? And actually, what we often try and do is steer them towards the animation piece, because that's when you can really craft something with beautiful music, like you guys do, and you can focus on the things you want to focus on. It's not to say you're hiding things that are behind you, which you can see in the 360 tour, but
and
I
some
think
people say
you guys
that
are definitely an art.
Yeah, no, I agree, and thank you. And that's nice. I like that. That's and that makes me happy. That kind of that approach is different, but it's what we enjoy. That we enjoy buying products and things and consume products that kind of have a similar way of advertising, and we like that. But I think that's definitely something a lot of some clients will say to us. Why come and stage a property? Why do a little video like that? What are you hiding? Are you not? But that's the point, isn't it? You're not hiding, but you're trying to make something as best it possibly can.
Well,
show off.
It's appealing to different people who all have, react to different stimuli. It's tapping into different parts of the brain to create that overall picture. I mean, I'll often reserve the right not to mention the fact that there's a downstairs loo in the copy if ultimately it's not going to be the thing. And equally, with your video or 3D tool, I think you need to have a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, and as you say, have it as a trailer rather than a comprehensive checklist of have we covered every single nook and cranny of the property.
Yeah, and that's the downstairs loo. Yeah, it's always just in one sentence towards the middle, and the downstairs.
And there's a downstairs loo. Yeah,
you can see it in the floor plan. In a video, I want to be brave with videos, but I'm still not going to be that brave to do a video with a person in the downstairs loo. That's not going to happen. I can say that. It's just not. However,
well, that's the 2022 version of what I always used to see, that agents who insisted that they must have a shot of the downstairs loo, but the only way they could do it is hold the camera really up high, and it's just
you don't want to see it. It's on the floor. You don't want to see it, yeah, and that I think that comes out. That's the art of it. The art of it is what you don't say, because we want to get people through the door as well. We want to get people into the house. So if you give them everything, like every single photo of every single thing in the house, and to say every single radiator exists and all of it, in a way, you don't have to I want people to come into our homes and
I've mentioned it, I think, on a previous podcast, and I mentioned it in the book, but Robert Cialdini, the author of Influence, who also wrote a book called Persuasion, and I think it's so powerful that it's very hard to change what people think, but it's significantly easier to change or affect what people think about. Yeah. And you've got that window between clicking inquire and arranging the viewing, from looking at the listing and actually them setting foot through the door of the property, which may be, depending on how urgently they act, it could be half an hour, it could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a couple of weeks. And you're probably not going to change their whole philosophy and the way of thinking, but you can certainly guide what they're thinking about and what they're viewing as important.
And that is so key. So we cannot tell people to buy a 3-bedroom house with our marketing if they want a 5-bedroom house. That's not going to happen. But if you're looking for that a 3-bedroom house, what we're trying to do is show that 3-bedroom house that we are selling, that it's just perfect, that it's better than the other 3-bedroom houses. This is because we're doing a job for our client and we're trying to get that buy. So I think that's so. Yeah, and that was, there's been London agencies that have, I remember living in London, they'd send you a listing. I hate that word, listing. They'd send you 4-bedroom house in the other side of London that one, I can't afford a 4-bedroom house, and two, I don't want to live in that part of London, but they'd still sell it to you, and I never kind of got that. I'm sure there's reasons for it, and sales rather than marketing, but I think that's really clever. That's really, I will stick with it.
Excellent. Well, I think we've had a fun-packed 45 minutes, I think. Anything else? Any other nuggets, pearls of wisdom you want to share with our viewers and listeners out there, Paul?
I think I've learned as much today. I think I've got a few pearls of wisdom. I think that's actually interesting talking about it. The marketing doesn't stop from just what you put on Rightmove, on Zoopla, on the website, on the brochure, all that kind of stuff. I think there is that experience is something this industry, I don't think, is touching on, is doing very well. And I think that is definitely a growth area within the industry. If we and our agents are, or we train our agents on it, it's that experience you get inside the home. So marketing shouldn't stop. Marketing isn't just for Rightmove.
No, and obviously coming from your events background, you're in an ideal place. I used to be the guy that used to put the new car models in the middle of Lakeside and the Metro Centre and things when they launched. So I've got that experiential marketing background as well. So, but yeah, that is absolutely untapped, I think, at the moment. Other than the typical, bake your bread before half an hour before they arrive, which
still works. Still smells great though, doesn't it? Still, yeah, absolutely.
But the playlist thing, the playlist is a really good one.
So jump onto, here you go, there's a little plug. So our one of our marketing team created the Mr and Mrs Clarke playlist. So it's on Spotify, and I think it's the Clarke's House. I think it's the Clarke, and that would be our typical playlist that we would put on if we were going to a house. So yeah, there you go. Check that out.
Will do. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Paul. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Paul. It's been awesome. Really fascinating. Amazing to hear about your journey. You're on the up. For sure. It's been an amazing 5 years. It'd be really interesting to see where you go in the next 5 years.
Thank you. No, really.
You got ambitions to go international? I mean, I guess you've got, can I say, my opinion is you're a lifestyle brand more than you are an estate agency in a way. And don't take that as a negative thing, but what you have is an opportunity to go actually in a slightly horizontal or vertical, depending on which way you want to look at it.
Yeah, watch.
Kind of.
You're smart, you two. Well, watch this space. I think we are working with a few brilliant brands in different spaces, and you're right, because our clients and customers like the way we sell houses and like this lifestyle brand, and it's and then a lot of brands are coming to us and are interested in, well, you're selling that gorgeous house with this type of paint, this type of kitchen, this type of sofa. It is a lifestyle. So. Watch this one.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks
for your time.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Property Marketing Show. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.